Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats and mute your phones. The AIDS 2016 opening session is about to begin.
I don't think there's any South African person that can say they've never been affected by HIV and AIDS, whether that's directly or indirectly.
HIV and AIDS is it's like a huge ghost, you know what I mean? Like, you think it's a myth till somebody around you or somebody that's close to somebody around you gets it and you're like, wow, it's real.
It's affecting our youth every single day, and with that being said, we need to be able to target them and speak to them in the way that they understand.
My name is Mandela.
My name is Dorothy Amwaha.
I'm Vince.
I'm Nico from the group Nico and Vince.
His name is Stilo Makulete.
I'm Kwaku Mandela.
I'm Zendaya.
HIV has been a constant in my life. I know what the disease can do, but I also know what's possible in this day and age to, one, prevent it and also treat it.
First of all, me and Vince, we've always wanted to use our voice for something more than just making music, you know?
Our aim as far as being a part of this is spread the awareness.
So we worked with the UNAIDS. They told us about HIV and AIDS and how the numbers are rising again with the young people in the world.
We are the future presidents and the future rulers of the world, you know, and it's ours now. You know, we have to pass the torch on to us younger generations, and we have to take care of the world and each other. And I think a big part of that is making sure we're here to take care of it.
Musicians, actors, who are the most influential people today, I believe they have to lend their voice to making sure that they get in touch with the youth, to make them understand the importance of knowing their status.
My biggest mission in life is to get more young people to be aware of self. Because once you're aware of self, the reflection you get in the mirror will be your biggest guide in life, because your only competition is yourself.
We have all sorts of technology where the young people come together, whether it be on Instagram, whether it be on Twitter. No one is out of reach anymore.
Be a part of something that's bigger than yourself.
Go get tested. It's not a bad thing. Check out if everything's good.
Join us and follow us on Protest HIV to get more information and understand who you are. Together, we can achieve anything.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Kwaku Mandela.
Thank you all very much. To His Excellency, the Deputy President of South Africa, Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa, and the ministerial and provincial hosts, former heads of state, Your Royal Highnesses, Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, and ladies and gentlemen, good evening. It is an incredible honor to be here with you tonight. 16 years ago, my grandfather, Nelson Mandela, arrived on this stage at a tipping point for South Africa. Our country's government at the time was in denial about the cause and the response to AIDS. Pitting ego against common sense and indifference over the chance to save lives. Madiba, as my grandfather was affectionately known, asked the people listening around the world to move beyond their differences and do something about HIV and AIDS treatment. Not just in wealthy Western countries, he called AIDS one of the greatest threats humankind had ever faced. The people who took his words to heart and stood up to say enough is enough are many of you who are here with us tonight. You form part of the remarkable progress and history we've been able to achieve over the last 16 years. To move from a world where HIV treatment was once reserved for the largely wealthy and fortunate to a place where 17 million people around the world have access to life-saving treatment. We're now looking forward to finding a cure and bringing about the end of AIDS. Today, as we all collectively embark on our journey over the next few days to grow closer, to build even stronger coalitions and partnerships, and to reach our goal of an AIDS-free generation, I'm humbled to stand before you, continuing my grandfather's legacy in my small way. it seems fitting that today is the 98th anniversary of his birth, a national day of service. It is also a national day of service, known globally as Nelson Mandela International Day. Over the next 5 days, it is important that we commemorate the victories that brought us here today, and that we look to the future. We may be fortunate enough to end AIDS in my lifetime, but not before handing the fight over to a whole new generation. A new generation of leaders that are here today at this conference. That is why I am happy to introduce to you this evening a remarkable group of young advocates and researchers. And for the first time, they've been invited to the International AIDS Conference and recognized as an outstanding group of young leaders. From the thousands of applicants who signed up to be a part of this year's conference, 25 were selected to be youth ambassadors. So please help me in welcoming them to the stage. The AIDS 2016 Youth Ambassadors are from 13 countries and represent all aspects of this conference. Some of them are HIV positive, others are negative. They are from the civil society. Some are activists, others are laboratory researchers. But they are all change makers. They are our future. So please find every opportunity over the next 5 days to welcome them, engage with them, and most importantly, let their voices be heard. I first got the opportunity to attend the World AIDS Conference in 2012, and it was a life-changing opportunity for me. I'm so proud to have been given that opportunity because it introduced me to so many of my friends that I've built relationships with here today. I have no doubt that this conference will afford that same opportunity to all of them. Before I make my next introduction, my cousin Ndaba and I would like to invite you all to stay on at the end of the session, to join us for a celebration of our grandfather with music and tributes. I promise you it will be worth it. And now I'd like to introduce to you someone who has become like a sister to me. She has been in this fight for over a decade, based on inspiration from a much younger age. She is a proud example of the immense talent South Africa and Africa has to offer the world. She's an amazing mother, actress, and founder of the Charlize Theron Africa Outreach Project. So please join me in welcoming UN Messenger of Peace, Charlize Theron.
Thank you, Kweku. Oh, it's so nice to see you. Hi. Especially on your grandfather's birthday. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's typical, when invited to speak at a conference, to begin by saying, I'm honored and I'm grateful to be here, and I am very grateful to be here and to be given this opportunity to speak and to be here with such an esteemed group of people. But if I am being honest with myself and with you, I'm also sad to be here at the 21st International AIDS Conference. This is the second time my country of South Africa has hosted. And that's not an honor. And that's not something that we should be proud of. We shouldn't have had to host this conference again. Please, please, please understand that I don't mean to insult anyone here or belittle the extraordinary work that has been done by this amazing community over the years. I have seen the impact of your work firsthand. I have been personally inspired by your commitment to this fight. Countless millions of people would have died without your dedication and your compassion. But I think it is time that we acknowledge that something is terribly wrong. I think it's time we face the truth about the unjust world we live in. The truth is, we have every tool we need to prevent the spread of HIV. Every tool. Condoms, PrEP, PEP, ART, awareness, education. And yet, 2.1 million people, 150 of them children, were infected with HIV last year. In South Africa alone, 180,000 people died of AIDS last year. 2.1 million children and counting have been orphaned by this disease. I could go on for a very, very long time with these statistics we all know so well. But instead, let's ask ourselves, why haven't we beaten this epidemic? Could it be because we don't want to? And by we, I don't mean just the people in this room. I mean humanity. All of us. Because when you ask why, you get the same answers again and again and again. Ending AIDS is too expensive, too daunting, too complicated, too stigmatized, too politicized. And I'm going to stop there because those aren't real answers. They're just excuses. The real reason we haven't beaten this epidemic boils down to one simple fact. We value some lives more than others. We value men more than women, straight love more than gay love, white skin more than black skin, the rich more than the poor, and adults more than adolescents. I know this because AIDS does not discriminate on its own. It has no biological preference for black bodies, for women's bodies, for gay bodies, for youth or the poor. It doesn't single out the vulnerable, the oppressed, or the abused. We single out the vulnerable, the oppressed, and the abused. We ignore them, we let them suffer, and then we let them die. My foundation, CTOP, and a number of our colleagues are calling on today's youth, to the young people, to be the generation that ends this epidemic, to be Gen End It. I just want to be clear about what the it in that sentence is. It is not just AIDS. It is the culture that condones rape and shames victims into silence. It is the cycle of poverty and violence that traps girls into teen marriages and forces them to sell their bodies to provide for their families. It is the racism that allows the white and the wealthy to exploit the black and the poor and then blame them for their own suffering. It is the homophobia that shames and isolates LGBT youth and keeps them from life-saving healthcare and education. HIV is not just transmitted by sex. It's transmitted by sexism, racism, poverty, and homophobia. And if we're going to end AIDS, we have to cure the disease within our own hearts and within our own minds first. And I believe the young people are the ones who can do it. Young people have always been the drivers of social change. Yes. And this generation holds unique promise. After all, this is the generation of Malaya Yousafzai, then Anoyara Khatun. This is the generation that is shattering taboos, redefining old notions of gender, sexuality, and racial justice. Not long ago, right here in South Africa, I watched a young LGBT activist challenge a bishop to accept all people into the church. Her courage and her conviction was so inspiring to me. And I know that her confidence comes from caring adults who create safe spaces to talk about issues without any judgment, who educate and empower young people to take control of their bodies and ownership of their futures. You are the world's leading researchers, the grant makers, medical professionals, and program implementers. The work you do is vital. It has changed the course of this epidemic, but it will not end it, at least not on its own. Yes, we have to all play our parts, and we have to work harder and faster and smarter than ever before, but it will not be our generation that will end AIDS. It will be the next generation. I believe the single most important thing each of us can do is to leave here tonight and to connect with a young person. Listen, truly listen to what she has to say. Give her a seat to the table. Let her be part of the conversation. And let's make sure our work reflects her input and her voice. The solution to the epidemic isn't just in our laboratories and in offices or in conferences like this. It is in our communities, and it's in our schools, and it's in our streets, where one smart choice or a helping hand can mean the difference between life and death. Nelson Mandela said, "Young people are capable, when aroused, of bringing down the towers of oppression and raising the banners of freedom." If we support our young people, if we give them the confidence and the space to speak out against bigotry and injustice, if we take the time to listen and empower them, they will end this epidemic. In closing, I really would like to thank you, all of you, for your amazing work and your commitment to this extraordinary movement. This assembly has truly been inspiring. And I'm going to say it again. I am incredibly grateful to be here. But with all due respect, I hope we don't keep meeting like this. Since the first International AIDS Conference in 1985, we have been counting up, all the way to 21. Now it's time for us to start counting down. We have set a goal to end AIDS by 2030. And there are 4 more international AIDS conferences between now and then. They must be our last. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome this evening's Master of Ceremonies, talk show host, and positive sexual health activist, Homotso Matsunyane.
Thank you very much, Charlize, for those sobering, powerful words. Wasn't she amazing? That was a beautiful, important speech. Thank you. Welcome. Mesdames et messieurs, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Siyanamukela nonke ngothando la eThekwini, KwaZulu-Natal. Welcome to this, the 21st International AIDS Conference 2016. What a fitting occasion to have this event on Nelson Mandela's birthday, the only statesman in the world who used the word love consistently in his speeches. Just a reminder that we are live tonight, streaming this event on Facebook Live as well as on YouTube. Please also feel free to spread the word and engage with any of your preferred social media platforms with the hashtag AIDS2016. Now I'd like to introduce and welcome the AIDS 2016 co-chairs to the stage, and that's Chris Beira, who's the Desmond Tutu Professor of Public Health and Human Rights at the Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health. He's also the president of the International AIDS Society. And I'd like to also welcome Ms. Olive Shisana, who is the honorary professor at the University of Cape Town, as well as president of Evidence-Based Solutions. Let's give them a warm KwaZulu-Natal welcome.
Honorable South African Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa, ministers from South Africa here, Minister Khadebe, Minister Naledi Pandor, Minister Aaron Motsoaledi, and many others, all protocol observed, friends and allies in the struggle against HIV, colleagues and friends. Welcome to the 21st International AIDS Conference, and welcome to the warm and wonderful city of Durban. There is no city on earth that has a more compelling reason to open its arms to you and embrace your presence. It is 16 years since the historic Durban AIDS Conference, a game changer. This conference matters to us. It matters profoundly because of the role you played in advancing HIV prevention and treatment globally in these years. Let us take stock of the progress we collectively made in South Africa between 2000 and 2015. We experienced a massive increase in access to treatment. We reduced newborn HIV infections from 80,000 to below 5,000. We reduced new infections in women by half. And we reduced death from a peak of 370,000 in 2006 to 170,000, leading to an increase in life expectancy of 10 years. We are grateful for this collective effort from various contributors, including the government of South Africa, the civil society, individuals, the health workers, the scientists, the media, the judiciary, the private sector, the international donor agencies, and the multilateral agencies. Thank you. We thank you for working with us to get us this far. It is indeed gratifying that the impact of the collective that has contributed to what we have achieved in South Africa is also evident in many countries. Globally, 46% of people living with HIV have access to effective treatment. In Southern and Eastern Africa alone, an estimated 10.3 million people continue to live fulfilling lives and enjoy reasonable health thanks to antiretroviral treatment. Together, we have lit the flame of hope for an era of an AIDS-free.
So the pictures that you're seeing are live from Durban, the ICC Centre.
They're not going to use your shot. They're not going to use this shot. Because I'm going to be...
Yeah. I think we should read. Okay.
Testing.
I'm going to reintroduce you for a second.
Okay.
Hello. Everybody, thank you very much, especially those that kept us entertained in the darkness of sound. Thank you very much for that, but we are back in business, everybody!
Yeah! As I was saying, together we have lit the flame of hope for an era of an AIDS-free society. We have dispelled the darkness of the past, but we cannot yet stand tall in triumph because there's a serious downside to this story. 2.1 million people across the world became infected with HIV during the course of 2015, as we heard from Charlize Theron. And this figure was only a fraction lower than the 5 years earlier. Funding is becoming a source of concern. We must demand full funding for the Global Fund. We have lost momentum when it comes to social, structural, and behavioral HIV prevention. We need to ask ourselves, why is this the case? To address these challenges adequately, we must ask, who is vulnerable? Throughout the world, sex workers and their clients, inject drugs, men who have sex with men, transgendered people, and the partners of people in these groups are still seriously at risk of acquiring HIV because of stigma and discrimination. In many parts of the world, 9 out of 10 newly infected people are part of these populations. Amongst people of African descent, the picture is quite different. Black people bear the brunt of the HIV epidemic, accounting for more than 58% of the people living with HIV globally. New infections occur mainly in the broader population, and women are clearly at much greater risk than men. Social determinants such as social inequality, income inequality, and the lack of economic opportunities and gender-based violence drive this epidemic in this population, particularly among young people. So, we must ask ourselves, what does a young man with a drug habit from the city of Budapest have in common with a teenager from Western Kenya? Or a gay man from Saudi Arabia with a mother living in one of the low-income areas of this city of Durban? The answer, I would suggest, is that they all endure discrimination. Their lives are precarious, and they exist on the fringes of society. Hence, health is avoidably a human rights issue. It is a human rights issue, and we have to treat it that way. It is thus no accident that the conference theme has been formulated as a demand. It demands access, equity, rights, and now. To achieve our goal of an AIDS-free society, we must, at this very moment, demand access to treatment for these vulnerable groups. We must accord equal rights to care for those living with or affected by HIV. We must reform the laws, the policies, the development programs, and the service systems to affirm the rights of those affected by and living with HIV and AIDS. We must reinvigorate our strategies for social and behavioral change, not only to empower those who are at risk, but also to mitigate the socio-cultural pressures that increase their risk. As we make strides in the biomedical solutions, we must make wider and more effective decisions regarding behavioral prevention intervention research to reduce new infections. Complacency in the advent of biomedical progress can send us back to the dark days. The International AIDS Conference has a track record of forging unity in purpose amongst our diversity. It joins activists, politicians, scientists, health workers towards a common goal. The progress made over the past 16 years is a clear indication that the AIDS Conference is a catalyst to making a dream of an AIDS-free world a reality. As we kickstart this conference, it is my humble wish that the words of the father of our democracy, the late President Nelson Mandela, and I quote, "It is in your hands," and I close quote. This will ring throughout the week, and I believe that everyone is going to remember that it is in our hands to eliminate newborn HIV infections, that it is in our hands to significantly reduce new infections in women, that it is in our hands to provide full funding for the Global Fund, and that it is in our hands to end all forms of discrimination against people living with HIV, regardless of how they became infected with HIV. The progress we've made thus far in the past 16 years is clear evidence that if we put our hands together, yes, we can achieve all of this and more. And I thank you very much.
Olive Shasana, the first woman from Africa to co-chair an international AIDS conference. And how was that talk from Charlize Theron? That was magnificent. Well, good evening, friends and colleagues, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the International AIDS Society and the wonderful Durban Conference Coordinating Committee, welcome to AIDS 2016. And let me add a special welcome back to all of you who were here at the AIDS Conference in 2000. I'd like to ask all of you who were here in 2000 to please stand. Yeah, it's so wonderful. We've all been on this long, long road together. Incredible, huh? And now I'd like to ask the people for whom this is your first International AIDS Conference to stand. How many people have never been to an AIDS conference before? Welcome. Welcome to you all. And let me just add that, of course, by attending the conference, you become a member of the International AIDS Society, and that means a lot to us. So welcome to the IAS as well. Yeah. This year, we launched, for the first time, a new initiative, the IAS Educational Fund. And I'm delighted to say that this fund has allowed us to offer an additional full scholarships to over 200 people, clinical leaders and treatment activists from low and middle income countries from all over the world. Can I ask you all to stand for our fellows? They might be sitting in the back. There you are. Excellent. Welcome. Well, I don't have to tell all of you that the world has changed in these last 16 years. In 2000, the IAS made the decision to hold the conference in Africa and in, of course, South Africa, in part to address the huge numbers of human beings living on this continent, living with HIV infection, and, of course, untreated. But also, we came to address the AIDS denialism then blocking prevention and treatment. After Durban, the treatment era and the goal of universal access can truly be said to have begun. And now, 16 years later, we're back here together in this wonderful city, and South Africa now has the largest treatment program of any country on earth. Yeah. 3.4 million South Africans on antiviral therapy. That is an enormous achievement. And the PrEP access era is officially beginning in this country. So that is spectacular. So let me tell you a little bit about AIDS 2016. For this conference, because we felt so strongly about participation from Africa and from other low-resource settings, we more than tripled our scholarship program to some 1,300 people. That's more scholarships than we've ever had before. Yeah, and that includes nearly 300 people who received full scholarships living with HIV infection so that we could help support the advocacy that we all know needs to happen. This is the most competitive scientific meeting we've ever had. The acceptance rate for oral presentations was just under 4%. So that's incredibly competitive, and so for those of you who received oral presentations on your abstracts, congratulations. We had over 6,000 abstracts submitted across the 5 tracks. We had over 450 late breakers, which were spectacular, and which included data from more than 25 clinical trials. And I'm delighted to say that for the first time, the majority of the accepted first author abstracts were women. Yeah. And that the majority of the more than 750 people who are going to be speaking here are women presenters. We had 16 pre-conferences leading up to AIDS 2016. So if some of the IAS staff and myself look a little bit tired, we've already run a huge number of conferences, including, of course, the IAS Cure Symposium, TB 2016, enormously successful, an outstanding PEPFAR implementation science meeting led by Ambassador Debbie Birx, and the first ever transgender pre-meeting. Yeah. And these were just fantastic scientific and community events with strong science and participation. And since for the first time, everybody who attended those pre-meetings is co-registered for AIDS 2016, all of the attendees at those pre-meetings are now also IAS members, and we welcome you. But of course, as we all know, we have not gathered in Durban just to celebrate our shared achievements. We're here because of the urgency of the undone work, because we are still counting annual deaths from AIDS in the millions, and because less than half of our precious brothers and sisters living with HIV infection worldwide have access to therapy. It's also incredibly important to note, and this was data presented in the recent UNAIDS report, that HIV incidence among adults is either stable or increasing. And we are here because it is too soon to declare victory over HIV. Friends, I wish nothing more in life than to stand before you tonight and declare that we are on track for the magnificent goal of ending AIDS. But as long as new infections continue among adolescent girls and young women of Africa at thousands a day, as long as young, gay, bisexual, and other MSM continue to face hugely disproportionate rates of new infection and lack access not just to services, but to dignity, as long as the epidemics underway in Eastern Europe and Central Asia continue to expand, and they are, the most basic elements of HIV prevention denied to the people of that region, it is too soon to declare victory. Yeah. And today, our movement, the magnificent movement around the response to HIV, is threatened by complacency, by declining funding. You all saw the report from Kaiser Family Foundation that this year is the first year we have real measurable declines in global donor support for the AIDS response. Shame indeed, it's a tragedy. And by the continued refusal of too many governments to address the human rights and social justice issues that drive HIV for marginalized communities and for our precious young people, and Charlize hit that nail on the head. So, I want to ask something of ourselves, I want to ask something of each other, and I think we all need to ask something of our leaders. We have to make the real commitments to end AIDS. We need to fully fund the Global Fund response, as Olive was saying. Absolutely. We need to ensure that there's adequate funding for our civil society partners, right? Without them, we are not going to win this fight, and we all know that. And that is true for all of us investigators and scientists, too. We need to fund the research effort to get to sustained remission and maybe an HIV cure and to get a preventive vaccine. And that is essential. And we need to end the exclusion of sexual and gender minorities, of our sex workers, our drug users. Yeah. Woohoo! There you are. But also we need to end the exclusion of the people we imprison and detain. And those people don't get to be here. We've put all of these requirements into what I hope is a relatively clear and straightforward second Durban Declaration. Many of you who were here in 2000 signed the first one. That was that HIV is the cause of AIDS. That was incredibly important at the time. The second Durban Declaration is available. It's up on our website. Please read it. And if you agree, sign it, use it, get it out there, and pressure your governments to implement it. The second Durban Declaration speaks to all the things, really, that Charlize, Olive, and myself have been raising up till now. What gives me hope is all of you. This is the most remarkable, smart, diverse, loving, and just community that I know. If any movement can achieve the goals we face, this one can. Together, let's make Durban 2016 another landmark where real access, real equity, and real human rights begin for those in need. And before Olive and I leave you tonight, we have one more message we'd like to share together. Olive, could you join me? As a gay man, I'd like to speak to all the other gay men and the LGBT community folks in the room. And let me say that at this conference, we've got to end the separation and let this be the moment that we embrace our sisters in the fight for gender equality and better access to care for women and girls. This is one fight, and we are in it together.
As an African woman, I would like to speak to all my sisters in the audience this evening. Let today be the day we join together with our LGBT family to fight the unacceptable tide of stigma and discrimination that is keeping them from living healthy, full lives. Let us use AIDS 2016 to bring our movements closer together.
Everyone deserves services? Yeah, indeed.
No exceptions. No exceptions. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And now, Olive and I are deeply honored to be joined tonight by a great personal mentor of mine, a giant in the struggle for human equality and tolerance, His Grace, Archbishop Desmond Tutu. Father was unable to join us here in person this evening, though he very much wanted to. And so he sent a video welcome address for all of you this evening. It's an extraordinary address, and it ends with a prayer. And I think I can say safely that it would be wonderful if you join the Arch in that prayer. Thank you so much.
My dear sisters and brothers, thank you for the honor of including a representative of the elderly and infirm on your program. I'm not a scientist, researcher, or health worker. The only medical credential I can claim is that of a retired junior assistant to the great surgeon of the soul, the one who lives within us all. I have read of the breakthroughs your community has made in bringing HIV under sustainable control, in the provision of treatments and development of trial vaccinations. I'm aware that the number of people on treatment is up, mortality is down, and you are working on solutions to slow the rate of new infections. You are on the cusp of a great victory. Please don't let anything stop you now. I have seen your commitment and your love. As a community, you deserve the highest praise for the manner in which you have coalesced in common cause, disparate threads in the fabric of the human family, courageously swimming against the tide to overcome a global challenge together. Why against the tide? Because catastrophe has an unholy relationship to poverty, to injustice, and to discrimination. Nobody is invulnerable to suffering. But Mother Earth reserves her most diabolical curveballs for the poor, for those who have been excluded. Just look at climate change, a global crisis largely driven by the acquisitiveness and consumptiveness of rich people in the north. Poor people in the south will pay the steepest price. It is the same with disease and access to health care. Those most in need so often get the least attention. HIV did not go out of its way to target poor people. It thrived in impoverished environments, in under-resourced and undereducated communities. And among those, so many societies have been unwilling to care for: gay men, transgender women, drug users, or prisoners and detainees. But HIV didn't reckon with modern science and technology, and certainly did not reckon with you. You have made incredible progress in the HIV battle in just one generation. There is no doubt that you will succeed. I want to thank you very sincerely for the work that you do, not only for what you do, but the manner in which you do it, for proving how much we can achieve when we act together for each other. Please, please, don't stop now. God bless you. God bless the people working tirelessly on the front line of the epidemic to care and treat those who are sick. God bless the communities that are working in unity to combat AIDS together. And God bless the political leadership. We pray you keep resources flowing until we see the end of AIDS. Let us pray. O God, all Holy One, you are our mother and our father, and we are your children. Open our eyes and our hearts so that we may be able to discern your work in the universe and be able to see your features in every one of your children.
Please welcome back to the stage Charlize Theron.
This is it. I promise I won't come back on stage. I'm here because it's my great privilege tonight to present the Elizabeth Taylor Human Rights Award, which recognizes individuals who have achieved major breakthroughs or shown exceptional courage in their efforts to advocate for human rights in the field of HIV. Since 2012, the International AIDS Society, in partnership with AMFAR, the Foundation for AIDS Research, have jointly presented this award at each International AIDS Conference as a symbol of the importance of human rights and the fight against AIDS. Here is a short remembrance of her dedication to fighting AIDS.
Her strength into the greatest challenge she will ever face. It required unbelievable courage.
I am here for those the world does not want to see.
President Bush, your policy is wrong, dead wrong, and you know it.
We need more money for AIDS, and we need it now.
Elizabeth Taylor shook the world into action, shifting her spotlight to the pandemic, never for applause.
How on earth can we ever do enough?
We will make a goddamn difference.
Protect yourselves, love yourselves, respect yourselves.
Carrying the torch.
Because the world needs you to live.
Of a true warrior. Of a true warrior.
Dame Taylor's work continues through the Elizabeth Taylor AIDS Foundation, in which her grandchildren have all become ambassadors and are true examples of Gen Endit. And tonight, 3 of Elizabeth's grandchildren and 1 grandson is here tonight with me to help present this award. So please give a warm welcome to Layla, Quinn, Reese, and Finn. The winner of this year's Elizabeth Taylor Human Rights Award is Martha Teolana from Zimbabwe. In Martha has stood against social and political challenges to the rights of lesbian, gay, bisexual, trans, and intersex people. Yes. She has faced incarceration and legal sanctions. She has faced incarceration and legal sanctions in her fight to ensure equal rights regardless of gender or sexuality. She fights tirelessly against injustices such as forced sterilization, other reproductive rights violations. And that is only part of her work. Martha is a trained family therapy counselor with a passion for clinical research literacy, ethics and research, and access to essential services. In her professional capacity, she has established and headed health programs for gays and lesbians of Zimbabwe and the Network of Zimbabwean Positive Women. Oh, she's not done. She's not done. And served as the chairperson for the board of the International Community of Women Living with HIV Southern Africa until January 2016. Please join me to congratulate this incredible woman, Martha.
I am honored to receive this award tonight, but I am not alone in this work. I am one of thousands of civil society activists around the world who are sanctioned and harassed by legal structures designed to make us simply go away. Despite almost universal recognition of the importance of community responses to HIV, governments around the world are using discriminatory legal structures to isolate and intimidate civil society. As Secretary General Ban Ki-moon himself has said, human rights defenders, especially women, face violent attacks, smear campaigns, and crippling fines. Whether it is girls in Zimbabwe or the Lawyers Collective in India, government persecution of human rights defenders must end. Tonight, I stand in solidarity with men and women around the world who fight for human rights despite immense odds. I thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage musical guests, Strong Girls, performing their anthem, Strong Girl. One Campaign has joined forces with Africa's top female artists to deliver the song, Strong Girl, a rallying cry to world leaders to seize the opportunity to lead the fight against extreme poverty, HIV/AIDS, and other preventable diseases. Please welcome on stage Gabon's Ariel T, Zimbabwe's Salmo Mutukutsi, Nigeria's Waji, and South Africa's own Judith Sefuma.
American baby, it doesn't matter where you're from, you're a strong lady. Yeah. Asian baby, Australian CC, the time has come to take our place as strong lady. 'Cause we are stronger. If we stand together, we can rule the world. Yeah, all in a man. What in the what in the Bogota? Show the world that you're a strong girl. We are a strong girl. Shining a star, start from the bottom and rise to the top. You're wonderful, loving, and strong. Nothing is stronger than a woman's work. I'm the piece of the puzzle that's missing, baby. I completed the earth. Call me Shiva, or just call me Miriam Makeba. See, we run the world. Show some love to a strong girl.
Charlize Theron is strong.
Thank you very much to the strong girls. I haven't seen the clock in a while. Where's the clock? Sex work clock, where is it? How many minutes do we have? We can start it again. Up next, we have Nkensani Mabasa, who not only popular, but is the TAC National Chairperson, the TAC Board Member, Rural Health Advocacy Project, which is RHAP Board Member, as well as the General Secretary at Basic Education for All, BEFA. As if that's not enough, also a treasurer for the ANC Selborne Mabunda branch. She is a mother of 3 and has been actively involved with the TAC for 13 years. For all that hard work, give it up for Nkensani.
Before I can start talking, I'll ask Paul Kasongo to come quickly because I don't have much time. And also the activists, those are wearing T-shirts. Deputy President, Minister of Health, Premier of KwaZulu-Natal, MECs, foreign dignitaries, leaders of global AIDS response, people living with HIV, activists from all over the world, I greet you. I want to start by saying I'm honored to can address this honorable conference. We are here 16 years after a young boy with HIV named Nkosi Johnson's addressed the same conference. We are here 16 years after the Durban Declaration said no to madness of AIDS denialism. 16 years after many marched on the streets outside this building demanding access to ARV treatment and the start of PMTCT programs in developing countries. 15 years after African states declared that they will allocate their 15% budget to health services. The question is, how many countries did they deliver according to the promises they made? I'm Kensan Mabasa, I'm 38 years. I'm from Limpopo in a village called Tomo. We are a movement in the treatment action campaign of 5,000 membership, poor people from rural communities, and of which most of them are women and who are HIV positive. I come from a rural town in Limpopo where access to services are still a challenge. And this is not only in Guyana, it also happens in other countries, in other African countries at rural areas. Where people we go to healthcare facilities, you find that there are challenges. We have to travel distances to go and access our services. Those who doesn't have money to travel to go and access the services, most of them, they do die at their home. At the place where I'm coming from, there are challenges in terms of accessing ambulances to go and get access at the hospitals. Sometimes you go and you find that you don't have, there is no medication at the health facilities. Those who doesn't have money, they don't even manage to go to another health facility to access the service. We know today that we have got 17 million people who are on treatment. And still we have got 20 million people who does not have access to treatment. Another 20 million people still need treatment currently, and as a matter of urgency. The main task before all of us gathered here is to ensure that additional 20 million people have access to treatment, and not just treatment, but also all healthcare facilities and support. As our human rights, we now need a roadmap to treatment for all, not just a talk. A roadmap that is backed up with the money and political will to make it a reality. In South Africa, we have a 5-year national strategic plan. For the world, we need an international strategic plan. It is possible to treat and prevent every possible infection. But to do so, we must be honest with ourselves, and we must seriously address what are the obstacles. Governments, donors, corporate sectors, partners, UN agencies must deliver on their mandate and commitment to fund and implement effective prevention program and treatment. It is a fact that many young girls and women are still getting infected every day. No healthcare without healthcare workers and a functional healthcare system. There's a need to shift tasks properly, supervise and penetrate communities, healthcare workers, and lay counselors. There's a need for global plan for this now. In South Africa, community healthcare workers and lay counselors are losing their jobs. Where I live in Guyana, people are defaulting treatment because there are no people who must ensure that they adhere to their treatment. And healthcare workers who do have their jobs are overwhelmed and struggling to keep their heads above water. How will we reach the 1990 without the thousands of healthcare workers that are needed? This is a problem across the world, not just in South Africa. Too often at conferences like this, we focus on the technical side of fixing the health system, but turn a blind eye to the political problems. We cannot reach the 1990 if we turn a blind eye to the corrupt leaders across the world. Worse than in too many countries, political leaders are clamping down on civil society organizations that fight HIV. We are not the enemy here. The enemy is complacency and corruption. We cannot continue to speak about the end to AIDS when 20 million people lack access to treatment now. We know there is a proof that when a person is on treatment and adheres to treatment, that person is less likely to transmit the virus to the next person. We cannot continue to talk about the end to AIDS when new infections are rising in parts of the world, when young girls and women are still getting infected daily and gender-based violence is not addressed. When over 1 million people still need and still die of AIDS and TB every year. Meanwhile, TB is a disease that is treatable. We cannot talk of an end to AIDS while civil society organizations are being intimidated. We cannot talk of an end to AIDS when governments across the world routinely disgrace or violate the rights of women and key populations such as LGBTI communities. When sex workers are criminalized in many parts of Africa. When intellectual property laws are barriers to access to medicines. When Global Fund is not fully funded. Yes, we have made massive progress. Thank you, Mr. Sidibe. Thank you, Deborah Briggs. Thank you, Minister Motsoaledi, but it's not even yet half of the address that is supposed to be. We ask UNAIDS and others to stop spreading complacency by talking about an end to AIDS. Friends, we must demand action from the world leaders based on the facts, and the most important facts in that 20 million people need treatment right now. The United States spends $6 billion on defense every year. That while the Global Fund struggled to raise not even $30 billion. That while the world invests less than $0.7 billion on TB research per year. This is a disgrace. HIV and TB is still a crisis in our community. Urgent action is needed now. When your house is burning and your family member is inside, you don't beg quietly, but you shout and you scream. Our house is still burning. President Obama, Chancellor Angela Merkel, President Xi Jinping, President Zuma, and everyone in this house. Our house is still burning. We are not yet there. I'll ask Paul to finish my speech by what he's going to say right now.
Thank you very much. My name is Paul Kasonkomona. I'm a person living with HIV, and I'm very mindful that we don't have enough time. As they say, beggars are not choosers, but we are oppressed, and oppressed people will always find a way. I work with an organization called Engender Rights Center for Justice, which is an organization for and by sex workers in Zambia. I'm on this stage tonight because we are facing a crisis. World leaders from rich and poor countries committed to ending AIDS by 2030, but we are not on track to reach that target. Millions of people need treatment today, and they cannot wait. In fact, we must reach at least 30 million people with HIV treatment by 2020. Right now, 20 million lives hang in the balance. We don't have the funding we need to reach this goal. We can't be silent in the face of hypocrisy and broken promises. Sometimes I wonder, is it keep the promise and stop AIDS, or is keep AIDS and stop the promise so that we can keep our jobs? What is the funding gap? UNAIDS is clear. We need at least 26 billion by 2020, but governments are refusing to deliver funding increases. Rich countries like the United States of America and France are flatlining AIDS programs that should be getting funding increases. Other donors like Sweden, the Netherlands, Norway, and Denmark are cutting down on funding. This is unacceptable. We all must do more, but donor governments make a solemn promise to deliver scaled-up funding. We are fighting for our lives. Instead of being on the fast track to reaching the end of this pandemic, we are being forced onto a slow track that would be disastrous. Accelerating treatment scale-up is not possible without closing the funding gap. The AIDS response is at a code red. Unless this conference highlights the funding crisis at every opportunity, every day, every session, this conference will be irrelevant. Finally, we know this crisis is artificial and can be fixed. All it takes is accountability and backbone. The question I have tonight, which all my comrades here are waiting for the answer, is, will we stand together and demand accountability from our leaders globally? Thank you.
I'm going to ask comrades to remain, and I will also call on sector leaders because we bring the diversity that all of us, all these issues affect us. So the sector leaders can join the comrades. If we're moving, it's okay. It is with such privilege and honor to address you all today, the day where we all celebrate and we honor the man who has carried us through the life of fighting and remaining true to the struggle, Utata Nelson Mandela. May I request that we all stand up and take a moment of silence to remember Utata Nelson Mandela on his birthday, and also to recognize many lives lost in the past due to HIV. Thank you. Let me recognize different diversity. It's not, it might be in few numbers, but I wanted to also bring in the sectors, traditional leaders, women's sector, traditional health practitioners, men's sector, labor, sports, education, and many other sectors, people with disability. And it's unfortunate that Comrade Jacques could not join the stand because it doesn't allow a person with disability to go up the stairs. Let me recognize the conference co-chairs, Professor Shisana and Dr. Chris Bayers, His Excellency, the Deputy President of the Republic, Sir Ramaphosa, also the Chairperson of SANEC. Let me recognize the former heads of states. Let me recognize UNAIDS Executive Directors, ministers, deputy ministers, premier, and all other premiers who are here, the MEC of Health here in KwaZulu-Natal, MEC Dlomo, MECs, Mayor, international and national representatives of civil society leaders and sectors, people living with HIV, friend Charlize Theron, my friends Ndaba Mandela and Kweku Mandela, my comrade Nkensani Mavasa from Treatment Action Campaign, ambassadors, royal highnesses, dignitaries, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. I also want to take this opportunity to welcome you to South Africa, my homeland. Allow me to recognize this space that we are in, where we are reminded of the late Nkosi Johnson, the late Gugu Dlamini, the stallions who we remember today and wishing and hoping they would be with us and in our midst. And I'm certain they are with us in spirit. At the outset, let me thank the International AIDS Society for hosting this big event, bringing it to South Africa with more than 18,000 delegates that congregate today in the African soil to witness the progress, but also to witness the challenges and come up with solutions that could tell a better story today. Today marks history in this very same space, the African soil, in which, again, in 2000, it was devastating time for many of us, many of our sisters and brothers. These were the early years that sparked fear and confusion for many of us in South Africa and in sub-Saharan Africa. We were surrounded by yet an unknown but devastating disease. Many of the lives lost, and many of the lives that were hopeless. However, today we also have to celebrate. We have to celebrate South Africa. We have to celebrate a collective effort and magnitude of the National AIDS Council that steered the leadership from both government and civil society and supported by development partners. We celebrate South Africa's progress of having more than 3 million people on treatment, making it the world's biggest ARD treatment. As a result, today many of people living with HIV are leading a healthy lifestyle. Again, in South Africa, we celebrate the most important dramatic reduction of mother-to-child transmission. Babies are born free of HIV. And ultimately, we will reach the goal of zero infection. But however, we call on countries to follow the lead and ensure that we eliminate mother-to-child transmission completely. We, of course, celebrate the importance of reducing maternal mortality. Mothers who make it after giving birth to children, that both lives are preserved. We celebrate the pockets of excellence in responding to the health needs of key population, particularly men who have sex with men, sex workers, people who inject drugs. As civil society, we remain concerned that minor pockets of excellence still do no justice of ensuring adequate access to services of key populations. It remains unacceptable that today, in this age, 34 out of 54 countries in Africa still criminalize same-sex relationships. It is unacceptable that we have 79 countries worldwide that still criminalize same-sex relationships, where love is a crime, and worse, where love comes invalid in the eyes of others. You all need to know that LGBTI community or persons remains part of this history that no one can erase. Governments should get their acts together and protect everyone in all their diversities. Again, it remains highly unacceptable that segments of communities are left behind. The indigenous communities, people who experience social and economic determinants, including the colonialism and racism that increases exposure to HIV. It extremely is unacceptable that women still carry the burden of HIV, of violence, and of inequalities. As civil society, it remains enormously unacceptable that young women in the East and Southern Africa accounts for over 5,000 new infections, and these young women are aged between 15 to 24. Something should be done, something should give in. It is unacceptable. Youth, girls and boys in their diversities, to be specific, young women, are the future of this world. Older, selfish men must be targeted and must leave our children alone. I still say these older, selfish men are macho, mobile men with money that needs to leave our kids. I commend the US government for launching the DREAMS initiative in these countries, and I also highly commend the South African government by launching a national young women's campaign. These campaigns will help us reduce new infections and secure a better future for young women. History has taught us many things. History in the HIV response has taught us how to break the silence, where more people, and this includes many known organizations in South Africa, such as the Treatment Action Campaign, Positive Women's Network, National Association of People Living with HIV, and the religious leaders living with HIV. Those were supported by allies locally and internationally, who took to the streets to hold governments to account. The suffering ended in the very same streets of Durban that we are in to claim these rights. History broke the grounds, and yet again, it is the beginning that today we call on all communities to be held accountable, to take responsibility, and to break the chain. Many organizations and many people living with HIV changed our lives. All of us standing and sitting, we were changed, and we are not doing the same thing that we did 16 years ago or 30 years ago. It did seem impossible then, however, it became possible today. The 21st International AIDS Conference again allows us to reflect and prioritize at a time where we have recently adopted the UN high-level meeting political declaration. And it also comes at a time where we have reassured the world through the Sustainable Development Goals. HIV, TB, and STI response will require a number of things. Biomedical still remains critical, data evidence that we rely on. However, we cannot expect biomedical interventions to be the answer. The social science should take center. Intersecting issues are hurting us as communities. The epidemic is hurting us. The response requires that we ensure that access to knowledge, ultimately access to services. Multisectoral response and interventions remains key. protect, promote the civil society participation, contribute to the community responses. However, change the status of shrinking spaces for civil society, end HIV criminalization across the world. We also have to have a more willing and political commitment followed through by actions. Take South Africa, that has a robust effort with multi-sectoral leadership. We need to hold each other accountable, but we also need to fully fund the Global Fund. It is 2016, the clock is ticking. 2020 and 2030. They are upon us and around the corner. Everything we do requires that we upscale interventions, we focus on return on investment, we become more vigilant in what we do. We reach out to those groups who are left behind, we end stigma and discrimination as it remains the barrier. Overcome this hurdle is essential to effectively reach everyone, particularly key population. We need to protect the legal and social environments. We need to promote the rights of people affected by HIV. Let me join the Global Con and reiterate what is said in the 1990, the strategy that requires all of us to move fast. 20 million people across the world need access to ARV medicines. Make health service accessible. Prevent new infections through multi-sectoral approach. Link health system strengthening to community system strengthening. Fully fund civil society and community groups. Make the second line and the third line regime that needs to be reached to people. Reduce the costs of these medicines. We also need to make sure that the use of public health safeguards in the trips are flexible. Data remains crucial. Make PrEP and PEP available urgently. Challenge and change the status quo of social realities. Address gender-based violence in a speedy way. Empower and ensure that human rights are realized. Ladies and gentlemen, let me finish by emphasizing the need to promote and pursue policies in our countries in the most efficient and best targeted manner. Making sound investment in health is crucial. This includes appropriate and sustainable funding for prevention and for treatment. We know what works. We know how we can prevent new infections. We need to make sure that even treatment is available. We need to look at the right-based approach. We can't continue to police human bodies. We need to get to zero new infections. We need to get to zero discrimination. We need to get to zero death. And lastly, I want to say, I am Black. I am African. I'm a woman. I'm a lesbian woman at that. I'm a Christian, an educator, a community developer, working in this field of public health and human rights. And separating my rights, it's impossible. I call on all of you to ensure that intersecting issues and diversity of people is respected and is adequately addressed. I hope this conference will provide a fresh collective and political momentum towards reaching the goals. Amandla.
darling.
It's papa time. Everybody, start to move.
Incredible and powerful speeches that we get to hear tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, please welcome on stage Michelle Sidibe, who's the Executive Director of UNAIDS, and if the guy can move, there we go, and Under Secretary General of the United Nations. Give him a warm KwaZulu-Natal welcome, please.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the UN Secretary General and the 11 UNAIDS co-sponsors, I welcome you, all of you, tonight. I congratulate the International AIDS Society for this incredible conference. I thank sincerely the city of Durban and the government of South Africa for hosting us here tonight. Let me start by saying that Nkosi Johnson's spirit is strong here tonight. In 2000, Nkosi told us his story. He spoke truth to power. He helped us to change the world. We witnessed the start of a new era when the voice of people living with HIV broke the conspiracy of silence. From Durban to Durban, in 2000, people came here demanding respect, rights, and dignity. They came to demand access to HIV services. It is fitting that we are back in Durban to challenge the world again. In 2000, there were 1 million people on life-saving treatment. Today, you heard it, there are 17 million. In 2000, nearly 500,000 babies were born with HIV. Today, there are less than 150,000 babies born with HIV. And there are some countries where no babies are born with HIV. Back then, South Africa was in massive denial. Today, South Africa is a model for transformation. Today, you invest $1.5 billion a year, which is the second highest investment in the world. You have the biggest treatment program in the world with more than 3.4 million people. And new infections among children have dropped 84%. The combined effort of people living with HIV, activists, scientists, political leaders, and communities have completely changed the dynamic in South Africa. This is the kind of transformation we want to see in every country. The question now is where we will be in 16 years' time. AIDS 2016 must mark the commitment to finish what we started and fast-track the end of AIDS. My friends, While much is on track, some things have gone way off track. And we have lost time and lost lives and lost momentum. So let me tell you, I am fired up. Complacency is the new conspiracy. And it is time for us to broken this conspiracy. Our progress is incredibly fragile. If we do not act now, we risk resurgence and resistance. Today, I am sounding the alarm on prevention. Progress on stopping new infection has stalled for adults. In some countries, new infections are going up. We need to invest in young women. Harm reduction, PrEP, condoms, voluntary male circumcision, social protections, and community actions. By 2020, all countries and communities should reduce the number of new infections by 75%. 1990, which was our call in Melbourne, has been embraced by the world. We will fail unless we urgently close the delivery gaps. We will not reach our dream of putting 30 million people on treatment by 2020 or 1.6 million children by 2018 with the current health system. We need innovation in our systems and to re-engineer our approach to health delivery with more focus on communities. We must train and empower 1 million more community health care workers in Africa by 2020. 200,000 in South Africa alone to reach people where they are. Let me say, zero discrimination in healthcare setting is non-negotiable. We need a zero discrimination in healthcare setting. We need people-centered system that integrate TB, Hep C, cancer, and reproductive health. All people should be welcome to a clinic without fear or harassment. Today, we have our own moonshoot. We need continued investment and innovation in research, which will deliver the vaccine and the cure that is waiting to be discovered. I am fired up because in some African countries, 25%, I said 25% of young women will become infected before they turn 25. If we do not empower young women and girls, stop the violence, and provide access to comprehensive sexuality education and sexual and reproductive health services and rights, we cannot stop new infections. As Slim and Kuresha told us, we must follow the science and make the science available to people. Young women need options to protect themselves that don't depend on men. And to the blessers, there is only one level I want. The zero level. Zero tolerance for men. We put adolescent girls at risk for HIV. I am looking at the generation of young people. All the young people here, you must start free, stay free, and remain AIDS free. I am fired up because the civil society is being squeezed from all sides. The bold voices we need to hear are being silenced. I appeal to governments to open the space for community activism, even when it is uncomfortable. Without civil society, we have no AIDS response. We are leaving people behind when key population still account for 35% of new infections. Where is our outrage? We know how to reach gay men and other men who have sex with men, sex workers, people who inject drugs, transgender, prisoners, and migrants. Too often, we label key population hard to reach. But the truth is that we do not try very hard to reach them. This is why we need more initiatives like PEPFAR, New Key Population Investment Fund. I am fired up because just when we need to front-load our investment, donor funding has declined. 13 of 14 donors' governments have cut their funding in the past years. And most African countries have not met their Abuja commitment. By 2020, we need $26 billion for AIDS. We need a fully funded global fund. Canada's hosting the replenishment, and their increased contribution is a sign of their commitment. Let us be clear and honest. Many countries will never be able to pay for their treatment costs by themselves. If we are serious about ending AIDS, it is high time for a new political discussion to make funding sustainable and predictable. As Hillary Clinton said when she addressed the conference in Washington, this conference in Washington in 2012, this is a fight we can win. We have already come so far, too far to stop now. My friends, let me say to you, the fast-track response is the only way to control this epidemic. It is the only way to break the conspiracy of complacency. And it is the only way to end AIDS. My friends, if we miss this opportunity, history will never forgive us. Thank you.
One second. It wouldn't quite be 2016 without a selfie, would it now?
Thank you.
Thank you. We are now delighted to welcome one of our hosts to the stage, the Premier of KwaZulu-Natal, Premier Mkhunu. In 1994, Premier Mkhunu was appointed by the African National Congress to serve as the Deputy Speaker in the Provincial Parliament. Since that time, he has had many executive leadership roles, including as the MEC for Local Government and Traditional Affairs, as well as the MEC for Transport, Community, Safety and Liaison. This year, he was appointed to lead the province of KwaZulu-Natal. He currently also serves as the chairperson of the Council of AIDS. Please welcome Premier Mkhunu to the stage. Baba, siyabonga.
Thank you very much, Program Director. Your Excellency, Deputy President, Mr. Ramaphosa, and your beautiful wife, former presidents, especially former President Mr. Motlanthe, all ministers, all MECs present, Metro Mayor, and all other councillors present, President Mandela's grandsons, Kwebu and Ndaba, Ms. Charlize Theron, Professor Chris Beyer, Ms. Olive Shisano, Ms. Kensani Mavasa, Ms. Steve Lesike, Mr. Mitchell Sedibe, and all activists against HIV and AIDS from civil society, as well as all other academic and scientists present. I take this opportunity to welcome all of you delegates from all different parts of our country and the globe. On behalf of the KwaZulu-Natal provincial government, we would like to express our appreciation to the leadership of the International AIDS Society, especially President Chris Beyer, as we thank you for choosing Durban as the host city for this esteemed conference. Equally, we thank the President of the Republic of South Africa, His Excellency Mr. J.G. Zuma, for your leadership and for the support. Over the years, we have worked hard to ensure that we portray this province as an important site for the exchange of ideas and finding solutions to problems from different parts of the globe. We welcome the opportunity to yet again host this conference, which is a gathering of all scientists, policymakers, non-governmental organizations, especially health activists and community health workers. We would have loved to dedicate this International AIDS Conference to our beloved Tata Madiba. Inspired by his spirit and dedication, we want to state to the people of this country, the world, that we will do everything in our power to make you feel comfortable and to make you feel at home, away from home. We promise to host the most successful HIV/AIDS conference, giving delegates the opportunity to shape efforts that will strengthen the global fight against this pandemic. This is a very important conference, given the fact that it coincides with the birthday of our beloved former President Nelson Mandela. It is important to note that the province of KwaZulu-Natal will always be linked with the story of President Nelson Mandela. We recall that in the year 2000, Madiba captured the attention of the world during the International AIDS Conference held here at Nkosi Albert Tutu Convention Center. He also used his influence to unite more than 12,000 delegates who had been arguing with no hope of reaching consensus on a number of fronts. He said, never-ending arguments were distracting attention, and I quote, from the real life and death issues we are confronted with as a country, a region, a continent, and a world. He further noted, and I quote, that dispute must be put on the back burner. Nobody was totally in the right or in the wrong, and I close quote. Since Madiba made that statement, we have made lots of progress, both as a country but also as the province. Although there are challenges ahead, it is encouraging to note that the province runs the biggest ART treatment program the world has ever seen. Besides providing the largest treatment program, the province has reduced mother-to-child transmission of HIV to a point where we can confidently say HIV-positive mothers are giving birth to HIV-negative babies. Ladies and gentlemen, this would not have been possible without a decisive leadership of our President Nelson Mandela, which he provided during the International AIDS Conference and throughout his term of office. We stand up this evening to salute a man who strode with grace and elegance among the great statesmen of our time and commanded an exalted place for us, people in the community of nations. We respectfully bow our heads in honor of a leader and a champion for an AIDS-free generation. The 67 minutes dedicated to Tata Madiba today is an indication that the whole world was blessed with the life of Madiba. And our generation will count itself very fortunate to have been part of the experience. Madiba's life has been synonymous with the fight for human rights, justice, peace, reconciliation, equality, and most of all, selfless love, compassion, and the triumph of human spirit despite all adversity. We remain indebted and shall forever be grateful to Madiba for his unique and exemplary leadership. In conclusion, I want to state that the 21st International Conference provides a platform for all of us to strengthen our efforts in the fight against this scourge, and the presence of international delegates will enable us to learn best practice and enhance our strategies in order to make an impact at local levels. As the province, we want to emerge out of the conference with strategies that will ensure an improvement in the AIDS awareness campaigns as well as health promotion activities. We are confident that the conference will help us strengthen the campaign on treatment adherence as well as campaigns on testing and counseling for confirmed HIV patients. To the people of KwaZulu-Natal, let us ensure that we make the delegates' stay in Durban a pleasant one. Let us make sure that they enjoy the diversity of our cultures, of our religions, and get to learn the different languages that make us a rainbow nation. Program Director, allow me to now introduce the Deputy President of the Republic of South Africa, who is also Chairperson of the South African National AIDS Council, His Excellency, Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa. This is a leader of our people, deployed by the governing party, the African National Congress, to the current position on the 25th of May, 2014. A dedicated son of the soil, he was elected chairperson of the Constitutional Assembly, which wrote South Africa's democratic constitution. May I now invite the Deputy President of the Republic of South Africa to the stage. And I thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson. The Premier of KwaZulu-Natal, Mr. Willis Mkhunu, the Mayor of the host city of Durban, Honorable James Ngumalo, the co-chairs of AIDS 2016, Dr. Chris Breyer and Professor Olive Chisano, Executive Director of UNAIDS, Mr. Michel Sidibe, and indeed the entire UN family. Ministers of the South African Cabinet who are here, especially Minister Jeff Radebe, who has worked very hard to put this conference together, Minister Naledi Pandor, and indeed Minister of Health, Dr. Motsoaledi, and other deputy ministers who are also here. I also greet government officials. I greet our traditional leaders who are also here, leaders of civil society, members of the diplomatic corps, and I extend my greetings to our First Lady, Mrs. Zuma. I want to extend a special word of welcome and greeting to the champions for an AIDS-free generation, our former heads of government, especially former President as well as Deputy President Kgalema Motlanthe, who is a champion, former President Pohamba of Namibia, who is a champion, former President Banda of Malawi, who is a champion, former President Chisano of Mozambique, who is a champion, former President Festus Mogae, don't know whether he's finally arrived from South Sudan. And I'd like to extend my greetings also to Constitutional Court Judge Edwin Cameron, who is also one of our champions. The other champions who could not be here is former President Kenneth Kaunda, former President Konare, Mkapa, Obasanjo, Wandira, Kasibye, and Miriam Were. Now I single them out because, and pay special greetings and tribute to them, because these champions for an AIDS-free generation do diligent work silently on the quiet. They are a distinguished group of former presidents and influential Africans, leaders, and they are committed to making sure that on the African continent we have an AIDS-free generation. Let us give them a strong round of applause for the wonderful work that they do. Good evening to all of you. It's wonderful to be here and to see so many of you as delegates to this conference. It is indeed an honor and a privilege for our country, South Africa, to once again host the International AIDS Conference. It is fitting that we meet to open this conference on this very special day, Nelson Mandela International Day, a day on which we honor the memory of Nelson Mandela, our first president and our icon. This is really a day of service, dedicated to service, solidarity, and the betterment of the human condition. It is fitting that we meet again in this city, the city of Durban, which is a very special city for historic events that have an impact on humanity. This is how the Secretary General of the United Nations, Ban Ki-moon, when he was here earlier, characterized Durban. He said it is in this city where the lives of humanity in a number of ways have been determined and have also changed. So this is a very special city, and that is why we welcome you to this very warm, wonderful city, beautiful in many, many ways, a city by the coast. And I hope you take time to enjoy yourself here in this very special city. We're meeting again in this city where at the International AIDS Conference in the year 2000, Nelson Mandela declared that a tragedy of unprecedented proportions was unfolding in Africa. He expressed his deep pain about the devastating extent of the AIDS epidemic when he said, "The challenge is to move from rhetoric to action, and action at an unprecedented intensity and scale." Since then, much has happened in our country, on our continent, and indeed across the world. We meet here tonight with a far greater understanding of the proportions of the tragedy that Nelson Mandela spoke of. We have all been touched by this epidemic. Many lives have been lost as it has affected ordinary people. Their families have been torn apart, communities have been distressed, livelihoods have been lost, and children have been orphaned. This epidemic has had a truly devastating impact on the quality of life of millions of people around the world. There are countries like South Africa where HIV has fundamentally changed the burden of disease, where it has significantly altered the expectancy of life, where it has also depleted health resources and put social support system under extreme and extraordinary strain. This epidemic has changed our world. At the same time, this epidemic has also changed us. The struggle to end AIDS has galvanized the global community in an unprecedented way. It has provoked the sense of international solidarity and a sense of common purpose. This virus has challenged all of us. It has required of us that we reconsider many of the beliefs that we long held to be true. It has made us confront our prejudices. We have had to change the way we respond to epidemics. Countries have had to redirect resources from other areas of critical need to address this new challenge. And as this virus has required a comprehensive response, we have had to mobilize international agencies, governments, religious leaders, traditional leaders, the media, donors, communities, and more importantly, individuals who confront HIV on a daily basis in their own lives. For many countries, as with many individuals, this has been a long journey beset with a number of setbacks, with a number of challenges, as well as a number of triumphs. For many, It has been a journey from indifference, denial, and intransigence to accepting and confronting directly the truths about this epidemic. Over the years, the international AIDS conferences have been the forums that have borne witness to this journey that has been traversed by the world. These conferences have advanced our understanding of the epidemic. They have also raised our level of consciousness. They have also provoked us and challenged our misconceptions. Yet, at the same time, they have inspired us, giving us hope, giving us innovative ways of dealing with the epidemic. For it is at these conferences where we get people who get together to debate and discuss a number of issues. And they have enabled us to travel a great distance. As we meet here today, I wish to pay tribute, and a special tribute, to the many courageous individuals and organizations in this country, my country, South Africa, and across the world, who persistently fought for the right to treatment and never, ever gave up. I pay tribute to you. And I should also say that I also pay tribute to the judiciary, because the judiciary in our country has also been a fellow traveler in all this, as they have had to interpret our Constitution. Where government was a bit slow in acting, the judiciary has stepped in and raised our national lodestar, which is our Constitution, and have said, this is what you are required to do, to give life to the people of South Africa who are affected. The success we have achieved in the treatment of people living with HIV in this country, in particular, is largely due to the work done by these individuals, these organizations working together with government. So I pay tribute to you, and I thank you for all the work that you have done. South Africa now provides 3.4 million people who are HIV positive with antiretroviral treatments. This is the biggest program as we have had of any single country, and I think it is such a powerful statement to the world about the government's determination to save lives. And I think it deserves a good round of applause. And I also stand here to affirm the unwavering commitment of the South African government to work with all sections of our society and with all our development partners to ensure that no person should die from a condition that can now be effectively treated. This is a commitment we make. The struggle against HIV and AIDS has been and still is a struggle for a better society. It is a struggle for a society in which the human rights and dignity of all people are recognized and respected. We desire a society in which men do not claim dominion over women, a society in which the powerful do not prey on the vulnerable. We want to live in a society where there is no shame in having a virus, in being ill, or in seeking treatment. That is the type of society that we want to live in. We aspire to a society in which the circumstances of one's birth, one's social status, or income level is no impediment to quality health services and social support. We want a society in which all have shelter, water, food, and the prospect for a better life. We must have a society in which adolescent girls complete their schooling, where young women from poor backgrounds progress to higher education and into meaningful employment. We desire that these young women should have control over their own bodies and are able to make informed choices about their sexual behavior. People who are lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, or intersex should be able to live in a society where they need not fear discrimination, stigmatization, or even persecution. It is a society in which sex workers, intravenous drug users, and other vulnerable groups have access to support, to testing, to counseling, and indeed to treatment as well. Our ideal and desired society is one in which everyone, men and women alike, take responsibility for their well-being and the well-being of others. As we gather at this 21st International AIDS Conference, we are bound to recall the moving plea of an 11-year-old young boy, Nkosi Johnson, who Michelle Sidibe says his spirit is truly amongst us. When he made his plea for treatment for children like him living with HIV. Within these walls, over the next few days, we will discuss and debate and interrogate our response to Nkosi Johnson's plea. We will need to dissect that plea and fully understand what his plea was all about. As we discuss and debate the work that has been done worldwide on HIV by scientists, by health workers, by activists, by governments, developmental agencies, and community-based organizations, we are bound to acknowledge that great progress has indeed been made. The world has surpassed its own global treatment targets by initiating 17 million people on antiretroviral treatment. That, ladies and gentlemen, is a phenomenal achievement which we should not dismiss. Of these, 20% live in South Africa. We have dramatically reduced the transmission of HIV from mother to child. In 2004, there were 70,000 babies born HIV positive in this country. Today, this has been reduced to less than 6,000 children born HIV positive. Across the world, fewer people are dying from AIDS-related causes. At this conference, we will hear the debate, the advances, how far we have advanced in terms of research. We will hear about better drugs, about strategies, that have reduced the rates of infection and improved access to treatment, but we will also hear that the struggle is far from over. We will hear that there is still much more to be done. In the face of this, we dare not be complacent. Michel Sidibe says he is fired up. In fact, we should just all be on fire as we confront this epidemic. We know that the rates of infection are not declining as rapidly as we would like them to decline. We know that adolescent girls as well as young women are particularly at risk. Their vulnerability derives from social attitudes and economic circumstances. In South Africa, each week, we have an estimated 2,000 new infections in adolescent girls and young women that are aged between 15 and 24 years. We know that our inability to effectively reach key populations who are at increased risk of HIV infection is perpetuating their marginalization. Our failure to reach them is hampering our efforts to decisively reduce the spread of this epidemic. We know that in the many parts of the world, we face the danger of losing the battle against tuberculosis as rates of HIV co-infection rise. We are hopeful that this conference will guide us on the next leg of our journey. We expect this conference to expand the frontiers of our scientific knowledge, including finding new ways of changing sexual behavior amongst people. The contributions made here must deepen our understanding of the many facets of this epidemic and strengthen our resolve to defeat it. We look to this conference in the end to send a very clear message, an unequivocal message to the world that we are determined and we do have the resolve to triumph. We can say with a measure of confidence that never before have we understood so clearly what we need to do in order to win the fight against the epidemic. We are, ladies and gentlemen, at a point of inflection. Our actions now will determine whether the gains of the last few years can be sustained and whether they can also be deepened. At the center of our efforts must be a global commitment to massively and purposefully expand the resources dedicated to HIV prevention and treatment. Money must be made available to make us succeed in this fight. We must do this now so that we can save lives, ensure access for all, and dramatically and decisively curb the rate of new infections. We can do this if we have the resources to embark on this new trajectory of our journey. If we delay, if we even hesitate for a minute, we risk reversing the gains we have already made to date. Even as many countries confront economic difficulties, we must not slow down. The long-term economic benefits of investing in HIV prevention and the treatment will be far greater than the cost to the fiscus today. Multilateral agencies working with the global health community have set bold targets that will require every ounce of our energy. The 1990 strategy for HIV and TB is a bold vision we must be determined to realize. We must always focus on the two diseases as they are two sides of the same coin. We must never for 1 minute just focus on one. These are the two diseases we must focus on because they occur and belong together. The work ahead, ladies and gentlemen, requires courage, it requires commitment and leadership from every one of us. It also requires action from every institution in society and from the global community of nations. It requires that we be more innovative, more collaborative, as well as be more imaginative. We call on scientists, and we have a number of them here, researchers, and they are here, and those who fund research to sustain the intensity of effort that has brought us this far. We ask them to strive to reach beyond what we believe is possible today. The scale of the task before us does require that we draw on the most potent means we have to fight this epidemic, human action. In a world given to cynicism, in a world riven by disease, inequality, and poverty, it is the revolutionary capacity of human action that sustains our confidence in each generation. As science advances, as we find more effective treatments, as we draw nearer to a vaccine, we know that ultimately it is only through collective global action that we will be able to succeed. If we all act together, we can triumph against the HIV epidemic. It is within us to change our behavior. We can confront and defeat unequal gender relations, prejudice, and stigma. We have it in us to reach out to those within our society who have for long been on the margins, unable to affirm their rights, unable to seek protection of the state, unable to access treatment and support with regard to the means of prevention. We must deal with the social attitudes that discourage men from testing for HIV, being screened for TB, and being initiated on treatment. It is through human action that we will end this epidemic. It is by taking action that we will build better, more equal, more just societies in which all live long and very healthy lives. It is through human action at an unprecedented intensity, as Nelson Mandela said, within the space of the next few years, that we will turn despair into hope and tragedy into triumph. 16 years ago, many achievements we talk about today just seemed impossible. 22 years ago, many believed that apartheid was an intractable problem. South Africans collectively triumphed and defeated a system that the UN declared a crime against humanity. As our national icon Nelson Mandela once said, it all seems impossible until it is done. Allow me to conclude with the words of Nkosi Johnson, who said, as he stood here, "Do all you can with what you have, in the time you have, in the place you are. It is indeed in our hands." I'd like to thank you, and as I thank you, let us remember what Nkosi Johnson said to all of us. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'd now like to call my co-chairperson of the South African National AIDS Council, Mapaseka Steve Letsite, to come up to the stage so that we can give a certificate from the South African National AIDS Council to a very special person. Mapaseka, are you up here already? The South African National AIDS Council, in recognizing the tremendous work that is done by a number of individuals, has decided that we are going to give a certificate of recognition and of gratitude to somebody very, very special in this struggle against this epidemic. And I'm going to ask Mapaseka, my co-chairperson, to announce who this certificate is being given to.
Thank you so much, Deputy President. We would like to call Comrade Michelle Sidibe, who has been very supportive to South Africa. He has been with us through these years, guiding and supporting us. So thank you. This is from South African National AIDS Council. And we're also going to give him a quilt, and these quilts were made by many South Africans, in prison, NGOs, young women, LGBTI people, sex workers, and we are going to give him one of those quilts also to carry through.
We thank Michelle Sidibe and the UNAIDS for the tremendous support, guidance, counsel, and leadership they have provided, not only to South Africa, but to the entire world. They, as UNAIDS, have raised the issue of HIV in terms of what we need to do, and the continued support we get from them is something that is very special. It is for that reason that the entire HIV/AIDS community in South Africa, which includes government, civil society that you saw standing here, business, sports people, traditional leaders, you name them, they are all there. It is an honor that we bestow on Michelle Sidibe with great gratitude and humility, and thank him for the leadership that he has shown. Thank you very much, Michelle.
Thank you very much, Deputy President. I am very touched, surprised, and I don't think I deserve this recognition, but I will accept it on the name of people who are not with us, but who are struggling to have access to treatment, struggling to make sure that they can have information to protect themselves, struggling to make their life better. And I want just to say thank you, thank you, thank you.
Everybody, start to
Please welcome back on stage Kweku Mandela.
Thank you very much, and I'd like to thank His Excellency, the Deputy President, for such an important and encouraging speech, which reaffirmed South Africa's commitment and leadership when it comes to the fight against HIV and AIDS. With that said, I'd like to introduce a dear family friend, Caroline Rupert, to join us on stage to give a little bit of an insight into who our grandfather was.
Before I begin, I would just like to thank my dear friends, Kweku and Ndaba, for inviting me here to speak this evening. To the Mandela family, the International AIDS Conference, UNAIDS, thank you for allowing me to pay tribute to a man like no other on this special day. This cause and the legacy of President Mandela means so much to so many of us here. It is a singular honor to be asked to speak tonight, an honor which I do not deserve, but which I am deeply grateful for. One of the many markers of President Mandela was his commitment to the battle against HIV/AIDS. Many of his family are here today, taking up his mantle and giving their ongoing support to the cause. I will always treasure the time I was lucky enough to spend with President Mandela. As an awestruck, insignificant young girl, he took the time to show me genuine warmth and interest, as he did to every single person who met him. On each occasion, I was struck by the personal interest he took in everyone he met: the driver, the gardener, the child. Upon entering a room, he made a point of directing his attention to the most vulnerable, the most isolated, the most alone. He wanted to understand our lives, even the detail of our lives. He connected with all of us at a human level. He is a man who put himself and his power at the service of the voiceless. He was a man who rallied for the voiceless. Too often, HIV/AIDS is the disease that is forgotten. It is the people that are forgotten, striking the vulnerable, the lost, the invisible. There is something you hear from HIV-affected children time and again. It is, "I feel so alone." The members of this audience give voice to those affected by this isolating disease. In so doing, you speak for our whole humankind. Mandela was a leader of purpose, a moral authority. His work and his mission were his life. He was like you. Your beliefs, your desire to take care of others is what drives you and your work. Speaking about this very conference, President Mandela said, "This is the one event where every word uttered, every gesture made has to be measured against the effect it can and will have on the lives of millions of real human beings all over this continent and planet. It is not an easy task. You are confronted with real life and death issues. It requires a wholehearted faith in the power promise, and possibility of the human spirit, a faith like Mandela's. I would like to close by reading you the words of one of those voiceless children, left alone by this disease. A teenage girl called Notkolo, who recently lost her mother to HIV/AIDS. She asked me to give other children a message of hope. This is her message and her words. We need a belief in our greatness. I feel that our country is at a crossroads. I truly wish I could mobilize all South Africans. Let's make a difference. Thank you all for your attention. On behalf of all of us South Africans, what you do for our people.
Excuse me. The vast majority living with HIV are unaware of their status. Fear of being stigmatized is a great factor. It requires bold and visible action at international, national, and indeed at community level. Every effort must be made to ensure that our people have access to testing and treatment. Testing is the only means through which they will know their status.
We've come a long way.
One by one, we are breaking the bonds of stigma, discrimination.
98% of babies are being born HIV negative in South Africa today.
By 2020 should be the milestone for every country as the world moves to end AIDS once and for all.
We owe it to Mandela that this dream is ultimately realized and fulfilled.
We should remind ourselves that AIDS remains very much a human rights issue. Our role as leaders is clear. We have to respond to the crisis that is threatening our communities to ensure that we stop the spread of the disease and that there are no new infections. We are an integral part to bringing about change in our community. I would like you not to treat people with HIV/AIDS with a stigma, because if you support them and you love them, they will know that this is the disease I can fight and win. It is an opportune moment for all of us to take stock and reflect on both our achievements and failures, make sense of what works, and move forward boldly in dealing with its continuing devastating impact. We have to act decisively, and above all, we must work together. The answer to turning around the devastating impact of this epidemic lies within us. It is in your hands now. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, before we continue, could you please note that our last bus transport will depart at 10:30, should you need to leave.
Distinguished guests, global citizens, Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the beautiful city of KwaZulu-Natal. Igama lam ngundaba Thembekile Zwelejika Mandela. Ndingumzukulwana kaNelson Rolihlahla Dalibunga Mandela, freedom fighter in the struggle against apartheid, political prisoner for 27 years, and the first president of a united South Africa. Nelson Mandela International Day is a celebration of his life and his continued legacy. I am humbled to be here sharing with you this day. His youthful activism spirit was reignited every time he attended this conference. In memory of him, I would like to share 2 lessons that he taught me. The first one is that nobody can take your dignity away from you. It is yours to surrender or refuse to surrender. He said, "Any man that tries to rob me of my dignity will lose." Madiba never surrendered his dignity. Whether he stood in the dock of the apartheid that accused him of treason, whether he was breaking rocks on that prisoner island of Robben Island, or walking to the sunlight of freedom many years later, he remained true to himself. He remained the people's leader. And respect for others flowed absolutely naturally from his confidence and comfort in being himself. The second lesson, treat everyone with equal respect. This was true in our house, whether it was a visiting president, an international celebrity, or just a visiting neighbor. He treated every single person with the same respect, with the same warmth. We must demand this in our AIDS response. For those of you that were at Durban 2000 World AIDS Conference, remember the young Nkosi Johnson, the very courageous and very brave young man who reminded us of this very same treatment of equal respect. And this response must be rooted in human rights and human responsibility. I'm here to echo the call that I made recently at the United Nations. We must ensure that hundreds of millions of people at daily risk, LGBTI people, young people, people who use drugs, sex workers, migrants, discordant couples, and people living with HIV, who live in silence and fear, can wake up every day to go and have access to good health and well-being and dignity. They can go to work, school, or their local clinic, unafraid of harm, of arrest, or physical danger or discrimination simply because of the people that they are and the people that they love. Stigma and discrimination have confused and complicated our struggle for our healthy families, our communities, and our nations. Stigma and discrimination are undermining our efforts to end this terrible epidemic. It is time we bury the fear and hatred once and for all. As we recall some of the moments of Madiba's life here tonight, I ask you to reflect on your own integrity and dignity, and the dignity of each and every person living with HIV/AIDS. It is a profoundly moving experience for me to share this day today and to hear the powerful words spoken by Charlize Theron, to feel the energy and the passion of this global community united to end this epidemic. My mother, Zondi Joyce Khatebe, died when I was 19 years old when she was affected by HIV/AIDS. My father died when I was 21 years old when he was affected by HIV/AIDS. And it was my grandfather who taught us, never be afraid to speak the truth. I would like to thank the AIDS Society and UNAIDS for inviting me here tonight. And above all, on behalf of my parents and my grandparents, I would like to thank you for the important work that you do. Let us not only continue to protect human rights, but let's remind the corporate community, civil society, NGOs, and individuals of our individual human responsibility in ending this HIV epidemic. Together, we can be that generation that ends this epidemic. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Freshly Ground.
Well, hello, everybody. We're the diehards, yeah? So much has been said about making changes and having the will to do it. Are we willing and able?
Somebody around you or somebody that's close to somebody around you gets it and you're like, wow, it's real.
It's affecting our youth every single day. And with that being said, we need to be able to target them and speak to them in the way that they understand.
My name is Ndaba Mandela.
My name is Dorothy Amwa.
I'm Vince. I'm Nico from the group Nico and Vince.
Name is Stilo Makolete.
I'm Kwaku Mandela.
I'm Zendaya.
HIV has been a constant in my life. I know what the disease can do, but I also know what's possible in this day and age to, one, prevent it and also treat it.
First of all, me and Vince, we've always wanted to use our voice for something more than just making music, you know?
Our aim as far as being part of this is spread the awareness.
So we worked with the UNAIDS. They told us about HIV and AIDS and how the numbers are rising again with the young people in the world.
We are the future presidents and the future rulers of the world, you know, and it's ours now. You know, we have to pass the torch on to us younger generations, and we have to take care of the world and each other. And I think a big part of that is making sure we're here to take care of it.
Musicians, actors, who are the most influential people today, I believe they have to lend their voice to making sure that they get in touch with the youth to make them understand the importance of knowing their status.
My biggest mission in life is to get more young people to be aware of self. Because once you're aware of self, the reflection you get in the mirror will be your biggest guide in life, because your only competition is yourself.
We have all sorts of technology where the young people come together, whether it be on Instagram, whether it be on Twitter. No one is out of reach anymore.
Be a part of something that's bigger than yourself.
Go get tested. It's not a bad thing. Check out if everything's good.
Join us and follow us on Protest HIV to get more information and understand who you are. Together, we can achieve anything.
You've been watching the official opening of the 2016 International AIDS Conference.